quick introduction of Samantha. She is an MS RDN, is the Manager of Nutrition Communications at Fresh Communications. In this role, Samantha is responsible for media relations, building relationships with influencers, both online, social, and through podcasts, and carries through their social media strategy, planning, and content curation. She is a Boston native and graduated from the University of Vermont with an undergraduate degree in dietetics, nutrition, and food science, and continued on to Boston University, where she obtained her master's degree in nutrition and became a registered dietitian. Sam, I didn't know we had UVM in common. I too am a Catamount.
Oh, I did not know that.
We can talk all about Burlington at a later date,
Yeah.
but I'll turn it over to you and feel free to get started.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lauren, for the introduction and for the opportunity. Really excited to be here today and talking with all of you. So as Lauren said, I'm going to be talking about PR and marketing with most of the focus on public relations today, and what small business owners / entrepreneurs such as yourselves can be doing right now for your brands amidst COVID-19 and everything that is currently going on in the world. So just as an overview of what you can expect for today, I'll go into a brief introduction on Fresh Communications, who we are, and what our stance is. I'll then talk a little bit about the state of the media, where the opportunity may lie, as well as some examples of those opportunities. From there, I'll go into what we can be doing now, given the state of the media, and based off of some of those examples that I'll go through, including PR and marketing, external communications, as well as the shift to virtual interviews that we're seeing. And then finally, I'll leave some time at the end for Q&A, hopefully. So to start for an introduction, we at Fresh are a team of registered dietitians and marketing experts representing all different kinds of clients in the healthy food, nutrition, and lifestyle categories. We've worked with work with healthy snack brands, healthy beverages, supplements, toddler meals, frozen meals, fresh products, pretty much you name it, we've done it. So quite the variety there as far as our experience goes. And right now we are really focused on helping our brands navigate through this time in the new COVID-19 world. The virus, as many of us have seen, has impacted so much, pretty much every aspect of business as we knew it. So that will therefore has required significant shifts in strategy and execution of brands' 2020 public relations and marketing plans moving forward. So right now, I really like this quote from the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization says, "We are experiencing an infodemic, and there is a danger that this could overwhelm people to the point where they begin to tune out just when they need to be most informed." So when major news happens in 2020, that news travels fast. It's just the nature of the 24/7 media news cycle that we currently live in. And that can be good and bad. On the bad side, it's the opportunity for inaccurate and potentially harmful information to quickly travel far and wide. So this has been the case with COVID-19. We see information rapidly coming out. So we're currently experiencing that information overload that the World Health Organization here is defining as an infodemic. The concern is that people are so inundated with information that they may stop listening. So during these volatile times, it's so important that your message, anything that you're going out there with, is useful and accurate. Anything that's just contributing to the noise in the media is not helpful and does not help build trust, most importantly, for your brand or your company. So with that, the visualcapitalist.com came out with this chart here, which shows the breakdown of what people are doing online right now, and knowing that online is a main source of media for a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this personally, as I know I have, but broken down here, you'll see a list of what people are doing online. And I've highlighted here the two potentially most relevant aspects for us as food entrepreneurs or food startups, which here are searching for cooking recipes as well as reading healthy eating articles. But I just wanted to point out, I put dots next to a few others where opportunity may also lie. It'll just depend on your brand and your goals and objectives. But for example, listening to music, watching movies or shows, looking at memes, these are opportunities for you to either insert advertisements or express your brand personality through memes or whatever it may be. So I've highlighted the two most important, but just FYI, there are other opportunities as well. We'd be here all day if I went through examples of all of them. So I just pulled out the two most relevant to go through today. So to start, the state of the media, so these examples are the first highlight there, which was people searching for cooking recipes. So you'll see headlines here from Pop Sugar, Good Housekeeping, Eat This, Not That, and The Kitchen, all of which are headlines that are showing us that people are, in fact, searching for cooking recipes. This also is highlighting the shift that is happening right now. So what are all these headlines telling us? They're telling us, so baking as a stress reliever or cooking to survive quarantine are showing the clear shift that is happening right now for content plans for journalists, right? So journalists, I'm sure before all of this happened, were not planning on writing homebound hacks, a cook to cooped up cooking, or here's what we're cooking to survive quarantine. But journalists' content has shifted to now accommodate what people are looking for. So that said, brands, food companies, food entrepreneurs also need to shift their message and their outreach and their strategy to adapt to the shifting news cycle. So if we know that people are searching for cooking recipes, we know that journalists are therefore looking to publish them. So this is the perfect time for you to reach out to any journalists in your database that you may know, whether they're people who have written about your brand or company before, or people that you've spoken with or interviewed with on behalf of your company, just to see what they are working on, because it very well could be the content that your brand could plug into perfectly or very seamlessly. The next batch of examples here is from that second highlight on that original slide, which was people are reading healthy eating articles. So we can start with the first one here from Well and Good, which is make cooking tonight a bit easier with these 9 healthy 5-ingredient recipes that dietitians love. So right now is the perfect time to source any dietitians that you may have already existing in your network. If we know people are looking for healthy recipes, we want to make sure that they are receiving that information, of course, but we also want to make sure that they're receiving that information from a credible source. This here being recipes that dietitians love. And this actually brings me to an interesting point, which some of you may already be aware of, but if you're not, Google has something called the EAT algorithm, EAT, standing for expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So the gist of this basically is that health and diet related content must have authority credentials on whatever the subject matter is that they are covering for Google to recommend your content. So this is really good to know if you are a food brand or food entrepreneur and you're trying to get your message out there far and wide. It may have longer legs if you have some credentials backing whatever that message is. So moving on to the next one here, from Good Housekeeping. This headline, how long do hard-boiled eggs last? Here is what you should know. So we've seen a lot of articles come out like this. People are trying to get a handle on what cooking and baking and doing everything at home now looks like. So if you work with any culinary experts, or if you have any brand friends, influencers or ambassadors who are culinary experts, reach out to authors or have those people reach out to authors on behalf of your brand who are writing content such as this, just to see if it might be a good fit for you to plug into. The next one on here from Healthline, 15 healthy staples you should always have on hand. So we see a lot of journalists writing articles such as these. They're actually referred to as listicles. They are basically just roundups of healthy products that people should have on hand, or how you should stock your pantry, those types of pieces. But they almost always mention brands. And sometimes it's a combination of brands and products, but the journalists who are writing content like this are great to reach out to and a great resource to have as food brands, because they do come out so frequently, and they are typically including brands already in these types of articles. And then the last one on the slide from Pop Sugar, how to avoid eating mindlessly when you're spending lots of time at home. So a lot of journalists right now are writing about the food to stress connection. Obviously, a lot of people are more stressed right now for obvious reasons, and often food is included in that conversation. So how food maybe can combat stressors, et cetera, et cetera. But if you have a product that fits this mold, it could be a good example of how you could plug into that kind of content. So in light of that shift that we're seeing and all the headlines and the content that's being put out, what should we be doing now as food brands? So here are the top 3 things that we'd recommend at the moment. So 1 is rethink media strategy and communications. 2 is be prepared to answer the tough questions. And 3 is prepare for a new normal of interviews. So I'm going to go into detail on each of these. So number 1, for public relations and marketing. So all of these may be things that you already are doing or have already done in the past, but we are just harping on them so much these days because they're so important now more than ever. So number 1 here, begin with statement of values and show empathy, show that you care. This is probably something that you guys did in your first communications in light of all this, but it's really important to continue to do this without or throughout your communications during this time as things are shifting so rapidly. So that's number 1. Also, be direct and truthful. Don't be misleading or don't tell half-truths. And with that, don't newsjack the COVID-19 story. So there is a delicate balance between seeming like you are taking advantage of the situation and or providing resources or information for support. So any outbound pitching that you're doing right now should be approached really carefully. It should be focused mostly on either education. It should be really thoughtful and thought through. So think through your strategy and as well as some alternative ways to shift that strategy to meet your brand's goals. An example of this newsjacking that I am referring to, so just to put it in context for you, the immune system is obviously a really hot topic right now. Everyone wants to know what they can do to boost their immune system. And with that, people are wondering how they can naturally boost their immune systems with foods or supplements or whatever it may be. So if your product does not directly plug into that story, your product doesn't have immune boosting properties or immune boosting ingredients, those types of things, don't force it just to put something out there. Wait, because something will likely come through that is more applicable to whatever it is that your brand has or your brand or your product has. The next one on here, review any scheduled marketing campaigns and reschedule if necessary. So just be sure that any content that has already been scheduled or anything that is going to be put out automatically, make sure you're reviewing that before that happens, such as newsletters or e-blasts, whatever it may be, and just make sure that they're appropriate. If it doesn't feel appropriate, even in the slightest, if it feels maybe not really aware of the situation, then just pull it and hold it until things shift and maybe it is a little bit more appropriate. The next one on here, so pivoting strategy or silence. So right now it's all about when to know to pivot and then when to know to be silent. It'll depend on your brand and what is most appropriate for you, as well as the severity of the situation. We all know how fluid this has been and how things shift hour to hour, day to day. So just keep your finger on the pulse of that. And, you know, we understand the first mover advantage is important because silence could potentially be seen as indifference, or it might allow for critics to define your reaction as opposed to you. Definitely want to acknowledge that, but just make sure you're considerate and as aware of everything going on as you possibly can be before going out there. And then lastly on here, offer support. So stay connected to your media friends, anybody who you know in the media, and offer them support. Reach out to them, check in, see how they're doing, make sure they're safe and healthy and their families are safe and healthy. Lead with positivity. And then see if maybe they could use some, if you're a snack brand, if they could use some snacks. If you're a baking mix, if they could use some baking mixes. You know, people are eating more and baking more, and that's one way to stay in front of them, and to also offer them support. So the next one here on external communications. So this one's really important. And actually just yesterday, a story came out about a large meat packing plant, which you may have heard of, that came out, confirmed over 200 cases of COVID-19 for their employees. So that is an extreme situation that hopefully no one on this call ever has to deal with, but we need to be prepared for any situation that may arise as the climate and the fluidity of the situation is continuing. So we here on this slide have a few tips on questions that you can be prepared to answer if media are reaching out to you, or in the case that you have an interview and potentially these questions could come up. So I'll just run through them really quickly. Are you able to continue production? How many employees can be at your facility at one time? How many days are they there? How many shifts are they working? Have you modified your protocol in light of everything? How much product do you have available? How many months do you think that product will last? Are your retailers well stocked? And do you have any supply chain issues? So there is a potential for other questions to come up, but these are the few that we wanted to highlight and make sure you had available to you to prepare answers to in case media does come to you and ask you any of these. And then the last one here for virtual interviews. So in light of COVID, everything basically, including this, has moved virtually. So knowing that, media interviews have also moved virtually for the time being. Who knows how long that will continue, but it's important to be prepared knowing that that is the current situation. So as always, you want to first lead with your credibility. You want to lead with trust and empathy. You want people to know you care, first and foremost, always. Next, logistically, confirm in advance your internet connection, your microphone. Make sure you're in a quiet space where you won't have any disruptions. Make sure your headphones are working, all of the above, so that you can hopefully have no issues logistically as you conduct your interview. Next, make sure you send an updated bio and high resolution headshot in advance of your interview. This way, if your video cuts out for whatever reason, they can pop your headshot onto the screen, or they have the information on your bio and background information if they need it. Also, dress professionally and smile. So even if it's a phone interview, smile because it comes across in your tone, and dress professionally because then you will just feel more professional and conduct yourself in that way. And then lastly, as always with anything, prepare and practice. If you do this, it will show the interviewer that you value their time, as well as have the same amount of professionalism remote as you would if that interview was conducted in person. And that is it. So question and answer time. We have a few minutes.
Great, thank you, Sam. So do we have questions from the group? If so, you are welcome to unmute yourself at this time. In addition, we are available via chat. So if you've got a question that you'd like to ask via chat, please do so. Okay, so Sam, one question we did get, can you talk a little bit about addressing particular company updates? So if people are launching new products, if people are launching new features on their food tech apps or otherwise, you know, how is it coming across in social, and how should they uh, be addressing these updates? Is it something that I think you addressed it earlier about connecting to the COVID conversation? If it's not connected to the COVID conversation, does it appear to be, you know, somewhat, I don't want to use the word tone deaf, but, you know, just off topic, off contemporary topic? Can you talk a little bit more about how brands are handling that?
Yeah. So we've seen brands kind of go both ways with this one, either holding product launches or app launches or whatever it may be, but also proceeding kind of business as usual with those types of things. I think it's very specific to your brand and your brand personality. And we also need to acknowledge the fact that this has gone on now for however many weeks, and we don't know how many more weeks it will go on for. And so with all of kind of that in mind, it really comes back to your decision and considering those things. But, you know, I think you could go either way. I don't think if you are somebody who's already gone out there with communications, acknowledging COVID-19, acknowledging what your company is doing in light of this, any changes, like I was mentioning, that you've had to production or whatever it may be, and then in a few weeks you come out with a product launch, I don't think people will think you're tone deaf. I think they'll say, okay, business goes on. So if that helps, hopefully, I would say.
Great. Any other questions from the group? You're welcome to unmute yourself and ask at this time. I'm sure there are questions out there. Oh, wait, we have one from Tina. Sorry, Tina, you are unmuted now, so jump right in.
Hi, thank you so much. This was a great session. In the process of everyone adjusting to this, there have been a few entities, associations, organizations, and sources of information that are doing just a great job of capturing the collective. You know, these are all the companies that are pivoting. These are different ways to help. This is how food companies are helping. Branchfood is obviously one of the heroes in this, you know, time period. What are the other sources of information that, you know, we can go to either as a consumer of information or just to like take inspiration from other great thought leaders?
Yeah. So I believe it was Adweek, and I can follow up Lauren with the link to this resource. I'll go back. I think it was Adweek, but they actually have a running list of, they update it, I believe it's hourly, on specifically what brands are doing during COVID. They started, I believe, the beginning of March, actually. So when things just started unfolding, and are continuing to update it every single hour, I believe, at least, if not daily. So that is one of the main resources that I check on a daily basis, just to see and take the temperature of what is going on, what people are doing, and how things are shifting so regularly. So that's something, Lauren, I'll send you the link to that after we hang up today.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the group? Okay. Well, Samantha and the Fresh team can be reached either through us at Branchfood or reach out directly. Thank you for Samantha for posting the contact information there. That's perfect. As a quick reminder, this session can be revisited on our YouTube page. If you go to YouTube and just type in Branchfood, the questions I think that you posted to the group, Samantha, were awesome, and all of the preparation information about connecting with others during this time, very thoughtful, and something I would encourage all brands to take a look at. So thank you for that great presentation. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in. As an additional reminder, all of the remainder of the speakers that are scheduled through the end of this week can be found on branchfood.com/servingupsupport. Tomorrow, we're thrilled to welcome Paul Nardone, CEO of Popcorners, who's worked with a variety of very recognizable brands, talk about the perspective and offer some guidance for dealing with COVID and the impacts on food businesses, large and small, at this time. So we're thrilled to have him join us tomorrow. And thank you once again, Sam, the Fresh team, for being part of this series.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren.
All right. Take care, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Bye. Thank you.